Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living on Blockchain. Today, we are speaking to Vikas. He is the co-founder of NFTFN. It was earlier called Belief Club. Basically, they are creating huge waves in the NFT space. They have a product called Supernova, using which you can actually invest in some blue chip NFTs. It's like an index, makes it very accessible, the NFT market for the users. They're also coming up with a few tools for the seasoned traders as well to go long and short on NFTs. And they've created a robust platform, and they are also doing something very, very exciting with Bitcoin ordinals. So I really think that all your NFT aficionados should really tune in, and traders as well, and do give this a listen. Hi, Vikas. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing well, Tarusha. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
It's wonderful that you could make the time. So for our listeners, can you tell us a little about yourself and how you got into Web3?
Sure, Tarusha. For everyone, my name is Vikas Singh. I started my Web3 journey in 2016. It's a very interesting story that a friend of mine in 2016, February specifically 2016, he used to work. He was from actually institute from IIM Lucknow. And then he was supposed to have a project done on top of blockchain. And at that time, I was like completely taken aghast. What exactly is this blockchain? And he was like being very, very pushy that Vikas, we have to do something on blockchain because let's say blockchain will save credit card industry billions of dollars because it can cut intermediary and it can actually save a lot of money in the compliance side of it.
Right.
I said, wow, very, very, very interesting, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. Then what happened is this, like he wanted to build some sort of a use case around blockchain.
Okay.
And back then in 2016, it was very hard to understand what blockchain is because it is now today, it's very easy. I mean,
Right.
you can just put up a LinkedIn post and there will be 10 people criticizing blockchain a fad and crypto a fad and still. But back then it was like very, very hard to understand blockchain from the technology perspective.
Right.
So what we did, we essentially could, at back then, we could only get our hands upon on Ethereum. It was really hard back then to even understand. The docs were also not very detailed, but there was some IDE that they have. It used to call Mix IDE. So now the browser version of it is now called Remix IDE. So when I use, so I installed Mix IDE, I did some numbers, I wrote a code in Solidity, and then off I go. So my entry into the Web3 was from the tech perspective. So it was, I'm fortunate that I was not exposed to Web3 from the crypto side of it. Later on, I figured it out. So, and that too, I entered into the Web3 ecosystem from the Ethereum side. So Ethereum as a technology rather than Ethereum as a currency or something, or Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency. So my entry was very technical when it comes to how I was introduced to Web3. So that was a small story. And then as things moves on, I was very intrigued by the promise that, and when I read, okay, after that I read, after I was done with the yellow paper of Ethereum, then white paper, and then I read Bitcoin white paper, then I was like completely in, I would say, price, as well as I was starting to ask these questions. Hey, why not somebody has already thought about these kind of things? Why can't actually we remove, like, why can't why can't we send money like an email? It was exactly all those questions which were flowing through my head. So later on that year, I was very fortunate to have some folks who have been experienced into the Bitcoin ecosystem. They helped me understand what Bitcoin is as a blockchain, not again as a cryptocurrency. And from those fundamentals, I build up my understanding. Okay, this is something which is actually going to upset a lot of people in the coming time. And that's where I got my North Star very, very much set. That boss, I have to work in this industry. And I was anyway trying to find the technology, upcoming technology, which I can pick up for the next 5-10 years. Because back then I was trying big data, I was trying like different other genres as well, Hadoop and all these things. Back then it was a very much rage. Like if you know Hadoop, then you can get into the big data. Then and that too from Google and all these things. So I was continuously seeking a technology which is up and coming and not yet has taken a fully much shape, and it is yet to ripe. And that's how I figured it out. It used to check all the boxes, and the rebellious nature of blockchain actually just matched entrepreneurs' nature. So I would say a lot of Web3 founders are rebellious by nature. That's why they got inclined to it. So that's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
I think a lot of us got into the space because, we were the misfits and rebels, and we kind of fell in love with the technology and the promise it
Absolutely.
had, right? So, and I think it still has that promise still exists. It's just that there
Hmm.
at times there can be a lot of noise. But I love how, your journey kind of came from being introduced to decentralized technology in such an organic way by your friend, and now, you're one of the older builders in this space. So what inspired you to create NFTFN, and what sets it apart in the growing NFT ecosystem?
Oh, absolutely. So my journey when I started, so after I understood it in 2016, I was
Hmm.
continuously seeking for the opportunities as a developer in the startup ecosystem, where because I was very much sure that this technology would be picked up by the startups first. So I was looking for the job in those sectors. So I was fortunate to get the job in a healthcare startup in Hyderabad,
Okay.
and then I stayed there for 16 months. And in those 16 months, those were the most productive 16 months, if I could say, after my college in NIT Durgapur in back 2019 to 9 to 12.
Hmm.
Because in those 16 months, I was actually maybe working for maybe around 16 to 18 hours a day.
Right.
Not just that, I was trying to understand and wrap my head around the blockchain technology by myself. I was
Hmm.
also evangelizing it. I was also trying to make it understand by the CXOs of the bigger companies who really wanted to actually take the decision fast. Hey, Vikas, whether we can use it or not. So I was like attending a lot of early breakfast, lunch, dinners with the CXOs, and they were really really keen to understand whether they can actually use it or not.
Right.
So hardware startups, software startups, healthcare, I would say logistics. I touched almost all those areas, built a lot of solution as a customized solution for a lot of people there back then, just to trying to who just wanted to actually create a small MVP kind of platforms. So
Right.
those
Right.
16 months were really really productive. While I was doing a lot of cutting edge work based on the EHR, electronic health record, and I was trying to understand HIPAA, HL7, FHIR, and all those standards in the EHR world for the patient's documentation.
Right.
So EHR, so electronic health records have different standards, just like our APIs have different standards, like HTTP and JSON over HTTP. So all these kind of different ways by which we send the data today over the internet. Similarly, when two hospitals use different kind of infrastructure to store the patient's information, they might use different kind of foundationally different kind of structure. So
Right.
we were trying to understand that how can we make a single structure which not only is HIPAA compliant, as well as people can actually take up their digital health records along with them, and they can also do selective sharing. So
Right.
back in those 16 months, I did really good work around there. I happened to just spend a lot of time in the hackathons also, because I was trying to take my hands onto everything and anything which can actually explore the or extend the fabric of blockchain, and allow serendipity to work for me, because I just wanted to get as much exposure to the similar kind of people, as well as from different kind of backgrounds, because it just helps you understand the technology in a different ideological way as well, because Web3 is not just a technology, it's a mindset, it's an ideology as well. So then I branched out in
Hmm.
2018, and then I gained enough confidence after working for almost 16 months with different CXOs, that I was able to figure it out, like it's not a lot of difference being in the job as well as running the job. So I
Right.
was able to understand and measure the how much distance do I need to cover from going from this side of the table to the other side of the table. So
Hmm.
I started all by myself. Then the whole game in 2018 was just to keep helping the people into making the products.
Right.
So I did some sort of services, and I used to, by that time in 16 months, I was able to create those small freelancer kind of community around myself. So I used to get the work done from outside, and then used to use that remaining money into building my own products. So I
Right.
did. So my understanding, because I was coming from a telecom experience for 5 years before I jumped into the blockchain. So I knew that the product is the way to go, rather
Right.
than just keep doing the services.
Services. Yeah, that's not
So,
scalable, right? After a point, it's very hard to scale it.
and people do not understand this, but I mean, they do understand this, but the problem is that they cannot execute on it. Everybody starts services just from this mindset that they will eventually one day will create product.
That's true.
But because of the fresh scent of the money, doesn't it's like the same salary kind of mindset in the job. Similarly, in the services, you keep getting money from the customer, so that money and the responsibility that comes with that money keeps you engaged in the service work, rather than that you cannot think with the freedom that what exactly that you want to do in the product if you were given a chance. So
Right.
I happen to keep those things apart from the day one get go. It really helped me to keep building the products, trying to market those products. Of course, some see some sunlight, otherwise some never sees the sunlight of the
Right.
product that we made.
Yeah.
But it always giving me that exposure to how to think from the product side. And from 2018 to 2020, before the pandemic hit, and in the pandemic also we did some services just to keep the lights over our head on and
Right.
keep building whatever we were building. So in 2022, we essentially, I was always intrigued by the financial side of it, so DeFi side of the blockchain, because that wave, I'll be honest, that I completely missed. I don't know how did I miss, but I think it was the pandemic or something, and we all builder tried to work in the bear market. So when the bull came after the pandemic, I think everything was like upside down. DeFi became a boom. Aave become Aave, synthetics became synthetics, and I could never understood. And I made a promise to myself that I will never work on the centralized. I would say I used to work on Hyperledger as well, just to keep the services part running.
Right.
But then I made a point that since DeFi was something which actually made the crypto legitimate in terms of the overall appeal of crypto, because it became something foundational, because now people can actually earn the yield in native tokens. Let's say whatever they will put up, they'll get something in the native terms, right? So that DeFi opened my eyes to the public chain impact, and that's how I was continuously understanding, boss, that DeFi is something which is scalable and it has the appeal. So I tried porting synthetics on Polygon once in pandemic, but I was not able to, because it was having like 130 contracts and bit complex. Then in 2022, I again give it a shot now, which is called NFTFN now. So when NFTFN started, we started with something, same thought process, like what is something upcoming and where the market can move, and what it is still an infancy stage. So NFT checks that stage, that it was an infancy stage, because it just created some, I would say, first cycle around itself,
Right.
and it was doing really good volume. Second was this thing that nobody was talking about, how NFTs can, because NFT in itself is also a financialized asset. How can you actually create the whole financial ecosystem around that base asset? So can it be staked? Can it be borrowed, lend, and all these things? Of course, lending and borrowing use was there. So we figured it out, like there is nothing right now into the derivative space on top of NFTs.
Right.
How can you build that market? So then we started and chalking out ideas. And then once we understood, okay, what we will do, we float around the company, and send the message across to our community, friends, builders, operators, and they love the idea. They quickly chip in. Sandeep was the first one to write the check for us.
Right.
And then AlphaWave Global roll in. And then there was, like, of course, Mohit, Ajit, Khurana sir. There are Easy for founders, and there are, Anshul, Ankit. So there were many folks like from the Web3 community who knew what I've been trying to do. So they just happened to be a very good backbone for this new experiment that I was about to go. And then for the last 2 years, we have been building this. How it is different? It is uniquely different from the position of the USP itself.
Right.
I can simply ask you, people, whoever is listening, of course, let's take a hypothetical case, you own BAYC. I can simply ask you, okay, now what? That now what doesn't lead to a lot of answers very aggressively, right? So you can of course say that it gives me an access to the community and all these things. But after that, we want to understand this thing, like if NFT has to become a rage, and NFT as a overall market has to survive, it needs more liquidity around itself. And to make sure that the liquidity is there, so we thought of having a derivative space, a derivatives market around it. So the first market that we, or I would say first idea that we thought of to create a NFT, to create a financialized ecosystem around NFT,
Right.
was to build a perpetual products.
Right.
So that's how the journey started. That's how we ended up actually doing it, because I was trying to do something in the financial space, but I couldn't. So next time when I got an opportunity, so I definitely started into it. That too with this new vertical. And now because we have a lot of I would say competitors, so that actually legitimized the whole narrative now, because perpetual DEX in itself is a narrative now, and NFT perpetuals also is something which people are looking forward to. So yeah.
So that's where, that's how you kind of identified a problem and now you've created products around it. So, NFTFN
Mhm.
in short is basically a platform that would connect NFT traders to go long and short on their favorite NFTs. Is
Yes,
that understanding correct?
absolutely.
Okay. So what are you guys doing in terms of Bitcoin ordinals? Like I saw a post
Mhm.
by you recently, and you had mentioned that, you guys are working on something new there. I would love to know more about that as well.
Oh, absolutely. So we are trying to make ordinals break free from Bitcoin. Of course, I know it will be a very depressant news for the Bitcoin community, but that's how the technology is. It's permissionless. So we think that the Bitcoin ordinals community is really strong. They're outpouring love into the ordinals is actually making them much more appealing. So we
Hmm.
think that what we are trying to create a platform where we are not thinking about the blockchains as different, I would say, countries. We want to just give everyone the single space where they can trade every favorite asset that they can. So today it is NFT, tomorrow it is going to be ordinals, which will anyway come soon, really soon on our testnet. And tomorrow then it can be crypto, but it is all down the line. So we are really really interested into making sure that how do we make NFT and ordinals really accessible in a
Hmm.
very low amount. I mean, entry barriers should be really really low, because today ordinals are also very costly. So the
Right.
whole intent of NFTFN was actually to give the exposure of these pricey blue chip NFTs in as little as like $1 or $10. So that's that aim, that focus, that North Star still is there. And that's why we are actually focusing on the NFT, the ordinals in our NFTFN as well.
All right, that's very, very interesting. So now, just to take a step back a little bit, if you could explain very simply what, ordinals are, because I think a lot of people who tune into our podcast, they are just trying to find their footing in this space. So can you explain simply to them what Bitcoin ordinals are?
Okay, so I think ordinals, what ordinals started as, I think back in the days in Bitcoin, so there
Hmm.
used to be some space in the each block. So what
Right.
they used to do, so they used to do it. Uh, I mean, they used to use that space in a very creative way. I think back in those days, it used to be called colored coins. So satoshis are marked. So satoshis are the smallest unit in Bitcoin.
Right.
Similarly, so what developers were able to find a way that they can actually program that small space, and they can actually target those small space and call those satoshis which are traveling in that blockchain, in that block, as colored coins. So I still remember that Infosys once called me on an interview, and then they actually asked about colored coins. So
Wow.
back in 2016, it was a rage that how can you use Bitcoin blockchain to do something. So whatever is happening today on the ordinals is a, I would say, perseverance that the Bitcoin community is showing to make Bitcoin more. Bitcoin is, as in the blockchain, more than just passing around the like currency from point A to point B. So that's where these kind of options are coming up. Now,
Hmm.
ordinals is, I think, it's a spin-off of the colored coins. So they again marking these satoshis in a different way, so
Okay.
that the people can actually identify, and also they are writing some sort of information in the and I think there are segwit now, which is essentially, okay, so it goes in a very different technical direction. So Bitcoin blockchain also has gone through multiple, I would say, iterations. The
Right.
way Ethereum has moved from POW to POS. So similarly, Bitcoin has also gone in 2016. There was, after that, I think there was SegWit, in which segregated witness it used to stands for. So they used to combine all the transaction at one place, but all the data part in those transactions used to be at separate. So they used to travel differently, and that's how the 1 MB block used to. I mean, it was always the fight that how many transactions that you can put in the Bitcoin block. So SegWit was one, then Taproot I think is the latest one.
Right.
So between all of these innovation, I think they found a way that how can they essentially now on each transaction they can actually write some more data, and that data
I
can
can
be uniquely
inscribe some data
identified.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can use that data to put up some information, maybe inscript. That's why it's called inscription, because you can scribe something in it. So
Right.
that data essentially becomes the NFTs, whatever they want to say. Like you can put a SVG, PNG information, whatever that you want to. That's how those inscription is now coming back as. So those colored coin, maybe it is again colored coin version 2.0, and now being called as inscriptions. So yeah, apologies for the little bit technical background, all of this thing, but I think that's how these things are connected. It's not something which is overnight done. It
Yeah.
is being very, very focused approaches that people are trying to do from back in 2016 days. But I
Right.
think now they have found a
It's
way to
found
do
it's
it.
become a rage. Yeah, pretty much like
Yes,
NFTs, right? Like they were always around
absolutely.
CryptoKitties and whatnot, and now utility NFTs are coming up, and so many use cases have come up for NFTs, which is wonderful to see. I think obviously in the Web3 space, it all becomes very technical very quickly. And there's no need to apologize for it because you have to set the context. Otherwise, it would not make sense. So I
Yeah, thank you.
get where you're coming from. You mentioned how the you guys are democratizing basically access to the NFT ecosystem. So what kind of impact do you see NFTFN having create in this space, or what kind of a dent do you guys want to create with NFTFN? Are there any specific tools that you are building that will make accessibility easier for the user?
Sure, it's like a two-point approach. First is there are a lot of people who, just like in cryptocurrency, people can buy a fraction of it. In
Right.
NFT space, it doesn't make sense to own one tenth or 1,000th part of an NFT.
Right.
It's an art, and it's an art, but still it's a financialized asset. So what we thought about it, that there are a lot of people who want to enjoy this volatility in the prices of these NFTs, and there are people who really wanted to actually get the exposure of these the price fluctuation in such a way that they do not have to end up paying a lot of money just to participate in it. So as long as there are enough liquid spot market is available, that will always keep the market very active. So we essentially zeroed it upon this behavior, that the people who cannot buy the whole, like one by one of the NFTs, they would love to get them exposed in some way or the other. And prior to us, a lot of people have tried fractionalized NFTs as well, but
Mm.
that fall flat on its face, because eventually the utility is not coming out of that whole value prop, right? What will you do of holding 1/100th of it? If that 1/100th of it also gives you the same freedom, I mean same rights, then it makes sense. Otherwise, it was like just, I mean, it was not making sense neither financially nor logically, that what will you do just by owning the fraction of a NFT. So
Right.
we understood this. So we thought of like not thinking from the utility perspective, but looking at it from the financialized perspective. So people are happy to have an exposure in a
Right.
most affordable way to the most liquid NFTs, and that to the blue chip funds. So
Okay.
that way we understood that this is the demand from the market. That is one. Second, the more it will be easier for the common people to get exposed to these kind of blue chip NFTs, the
Mm.
more liquidity it will attract. The more liquidity it will attract, the more financially stable this product become.
Right.
Similarly, the way we are now saying that ETF will essentially bring the swings in the Bitcoin price a little bit less, right?
Mm.
So sideways, the VIX in the Bitcoin will reduce, the more ETF money will bring into the ecosystem. Similarly, we think that what NFTFN is trying to do in this ecosystem is the same impact. We think that we will try to get uh, more volume of the people who would chip in a very less amount, but eventually it will be a volume game and can bring a lot of can create kind of a market where it's a futures market where people can see, okay, people can open interest on our platform and can see whether on which side the market can move. That is the kind of impact that we think that we can provide on the NFT market, because we are trying to go in that direction. So we want to become the gauge of NFT market eventually. That people should just look at us and they would be able to understand, okay, NFT market is going in this direction.
Right. Yeah. So, you have described NFTFN as perhaps like one of the greater innovations in the NFT-Fi space, and I completely agree there. Can you share some specific strategies that you are implementing to stay at the forefront of this rapidly evolving space?
Yes. So first of all, on the infrastructure side of the product itself, it required a lot of rethinking, because let's say liquidation, and doing liquidation is very, very okay. Let me not go directly on the liquidation. First, on the infrastructure side. So how do you get the price? How do you get the price of such illiquid assets when it comes to these kind of product? So you can only build a derivative product when you have a stable price coming from some sort of, API, or let's say on-chain prices are being shared. So we started solving these challenges in such a way that uh, back then there is no upshot. Back then there is no I would say Chainlink price, like no API was from Chainlink which were giving us on-chain prices. So we started solving all of these problems one by one. That is why I'm starting from the infrastructure side, because infrastructure is foundation for such kind of products. So slowly, the kind of problems we have solved for the NFTFN, we very specifically think that there are so many modules that tomorrow can be open source and can be put up in the retro RPFG, public goods funding, right?
Right.
So because that innovation is helping us to create such a market which will not only work on the NFTs but also work with the ordinals, but will also work with the RWAs as well. So the technology is very much extensible to any kind of long tail assets.
Okay.
So yes, so that is one innovation that we think that we have done, and that too all came from the financialized and creating a, I would say, financial engineering has been the second part in the product of NFTFN. That how do you make a product which you have done 1,000 simulations, so that you know for sure that what kind of market we can get ourselves into. So that is a continuous process. So we started with a very solid quant team as well. So how do you actually create these kind of financialized product, which I would say properly risk managed is the right word, to
Right.
simplify everything which goes in the quant side. How do you create a properly risk managed financialized product? So that is the second thing I would say. And then rest of the thing will go into creating a leverage product. Leverage product requires some sort of a very diligent handling in the numbers. So Solidity is a very mischievous language where you require to be correct up to 18th decimal because of the Ethereum.
Right.
So so having the third thing is like writing the smart contracts in such a way that where the numbers are not like till the 18th point, the numbers are coming as correct. So that product can behave deterministically tomorrow for even low amount of dollar value as well. Let's say $10 value or $20 value, right?
Right.
And then it comes to finally, because leverage product require liquidation. So how do you bring liquidation in such a way that, again, it's a liquidation, but require very, very much novel thinking. So we have built some really robust version one of the liquidation suite, which we have created in such a way that anybody can run it in a very cost efficient way. I mean, cost efficient in the sense like the technical footprint to run that thing is very low, as well as people can run it as per their, I would say, pocket. Let's say they just want to liquidate up to $500 worth of assets, they can do that as well. So we have been doing a lot of hard work, a lot of engineering, but that's where we are like about to put this engineering into the mainnet beta, so that we'll try the product. We have been running this product from in the testnet from almost 1 year now,
Wow.
9 months. 9-10 months. Yeah. We were waiting for the market to actually come back up, otherwise
Right.
it would make
Yeah.
no sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
I would recommend that